This is Tommy Charles and Jeff Harrison again of the Speakers of Organization LLC, and this is part 2 for about the church hurt, and we're going to get into what I said we was going to get into about how I almost killed my pastor, because I almost literally murdered my pastor. Almost literally, when I was 22 years old, I almost literally murdered my pastor, and I'm going to tell you what happened. And the purpose of our video is really because of we want to be able to touch people's hearts, and we want you all to know, number one, that the church is real. We want you to know that the church was established by the Most High through His Son, and people call Him Jesus, but I call Him Isho by the ancient Aramaic language, which is cool because I'm speaking to you right now in English, but I'm not of England and I'm not English, but I speak the King's language, right? Because my blood, the language of my bloodline was beat out of me, and the bloodline of my language is supposed to be Aramaic, the true Hebrew language that the apostles, the Isho, who the world called Jesus, spoke. Okay, not the modern, because they speak Yiddish. It's called Hebrew and Yiddish mix. Okay, and that's what the Jews speak today. No, I'm talking about the original true bloodline of the Hebrews. They spoke Hebrew, Aramaic, and Yiddish. Okay, Jeff, man, what I want to ask you, because we want you to know that the church is real and it's set up, but there's people that have infiltrated the church or the people of God to deceive you and to cause things to be watered down. But we want you to know that be a part of the church. I'm going to let Jeff speak because I want him to share some things with you that happened to you. So, Jeff, I want to ask you, man, have you ever experienced any church hurt?
You know, I found out that, because, the gift of, when you walk in the office, of a prophet, you find out that a pastor can see. A pastor have the gift to be able to see where he should have the gift, or she should have the gift to be able to see where the congregation is going. Right. How can you lead somebody unless you know where you're going? Right. If the blind can't lead the blind. So I've been through the type of church hurt where, because I'm able to see, a lot of times I would encounter pastors that maybe had limited vision. And because of their limited vision, and there's a disservice to themselves that they didn't recognize the gift that was in me, because a prophet and a pastor should work closely together. So that when the pastor does have limited vision, the prophet is able to see and communicate to that pastor exactly what's going on. So he can't have jealousy in his heart or her heart toward the gift and realize that the gifts are supposed to work together. So because of this gift of, being able to see, I had to endure, matter of fact, the last couple of years I was in the church, and the pastor was out of town. Okay. So he called, and he was on the highway heading back. So he had called that Sunday morning and told one of the deacons to tell Evangelist Harrison he gonna have to preach this morning. And so I went home, and it was a late notice, but I went and got my robe and went and got my Bible, and I studied and got everything together, and I'm ready to preach. And I gets to the church, I goes in the back room, and I'm in the office, I'm putting my robe on, and I'm getting ready to come out to the pulpit. I gets a knock on the door. Oh, the pastor just called and said he's right around the corner, and he gonna make it back in time, so you don't have to speak today. Here I am getting ready to walk out of the pastor's office to the pulpit, and he knocks on the door and says, you don't have to speak today. So then when he gets there, I tell him, I really do have a word for the church today. Oh, what is it that you have? I tells him, he said, oh, that ain't what the church want to hear today. I got something I really got to communicate to the church today, so we'll put you, maybe we'll hold on to that and do it on another day. So you see the jealousy in that. You see see people try to protect their pulpit, and as if it's theirs, as if God didn't place us all in the body, And just because somebody else is effective, and you may have some problems in being effective, use that person. You use the person when God sent them to you. And a lot of people wonder why people come, you know what I'm saying, and they go. Because nobody's going to allow pastors to manipulate or sit you down for 3, 4, 5 years. And a lot of people want to do that. Oh, you go sit down for 5 or 6 years. That's why we're doing this video. We got to get it out. We all got work to do. Right. It's not a one-man system. Right. And a lot of people they believe that it's a one-man system. And a one-man system is not really even a church, to be honest with you. Right. Because the Bible said that when Christ ascended, that he left gifts. He left pastors, prophets, teachers, evangelists, and apostles. This is called the fivefold ministry. And if you don't have a fivefold ministry, you don't really have a church. All you have is just the weight falling on one man, the pastor. That's called a one-man clown show. Because you need fivefold ministry. You need the prophet to be able to assist that pastor when he can't see that well. You need apostles to build that church. Apostles lay foundation. Evangelists goes out. Teachers teach. Everybody have a specific calling, but it all works together. It's tied in together, and we want to put the weight on one man, the pastor. That's not what it's all about. You need the other 4 to help and build the church and to edify that church.
The church, I agree with you, man. I definitely agree with you, Jeff, man. A church is not for show. It's not for show. It's not even a business. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be for soul.
That's right. It's by soul.
It's supposed to be for soul. And I say one thing I have to say. There's a lot of people out here that started congregations that's witches and warlocks. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You hear me? That were sent to set up imitation church congregations. Mm-hmm. To deter, because we have to realize that there is Satan, right, and there are demons, according to Scripture, and according to what I even know in real life. Okay, those in hierarchy in this world system, you all know I'm telling the truth. You all that's up in Hollywood, you all know I'm telling the truth. And you all people that do witches, that really do witchcraft and seances and all, you all know I'm telling the truth. Satan exists and demons exist. And when something is true, something is real, and something is pure for the Most High God, Satan, he's going to do what he got to do to interrupt that, to downgrade that, to degrade that, or to destroy that. You see, and that's his own mission in life. When he was asked, what is he doing? He told, when God asked Satan, what is he doing? He said, I'm going to and fro in the earth, seeking who I may devour. Right. Seeking who I may deceive, seeking who I may trick, seeking what I may destroy. That's what he does constantly, because he don't have any hope. But why do God allow all of this to happen? Because nothing happens without God's knowledge of what he knew. As a matter of fact, he knew it was going to happen before it happened. He already knew it was going to happen. He knew it was happening before he created who we know as Adam. That's right. But the reason why is because he knew that humanity was going to be all messed up. Because of our sins, our wickedness, our evilness, God allows sin. You don't deserve peace. We don't deserve peace.
You know, one time God even said in the Old Testament, he said he was basically sorry. I'm paraphrasing. God said, I'm sorry he made man. He said, he said he had to repent. He said, I'd have made this man. And he had to look back and say, wow. But that wasn't a mistake either. God already knew.
He knew.
Yeah, he full knew all of it.
He knew, man. I'm gonna tell you, Jeff, man. I hear so many pastors, man, and evangelists on television that say so many things that's against the Scripture, man. And you have, and they have thousands of people in their audience. Thousands of people, man, in their audience. And these men and these women are standing before these people speaking lies, Jeff.
Mhm.
They're speaking things that's against the scripture.
Mhm.
And the people that's sitting there, they don't know.
Mhm.
Let me explain something to you. I'm gonna have my experience. I'm gonna share my experience to you.
Mhm.
My mother started taking us to church, Jeff, man, since I was like in the first grade, kindergarten, like 5, 6 years old, I'm gonna say. And we went to this pastor during that time. I'm a little older fella, so we talking about like the early 70s, late 60s. I was 5 years old in 1967. Me and Jeff, we the same age. We was born in the same year. Maybe that's why we close. I don't know. But my mother been taking us to this church, Jeff, man, for ever since I was in 5 or 6 years old, man. And during that time, too, I know my mother and I call him my biological because he wasn't in my life. He didn't teach me how to be a man. He didn't care if I ate or nothing. We all lived in the same city in Detroit.
Mhm.
At that time, my mother told me that that this pastor was counseling my mother and my biological, people would say my father, but he never fathered me.
Mhm.
He was counseling them, but he would counsel them separately. This man he was a very attractive man, had them light gray eyes, was very charismatic, a very strong personality, and he knew it.
Mhm.
I learned that when he was older, so I'm gonna tell you what he used to say. But he counseled my mother, and my mother told me that when he was counseling my biological, that my biological called my mother the B word, the B-I-T-C-H word. I don't curse.
Mhm.
So the pastor went back and told my mother what he said.
Mhm.
And it caused my mother that. My mother told me how she had so much anger and at that time, I guess, like a strong dislike for my biological for calling her a B-I-T-C-H, a female dog.
Mhm.
So, you know, that was number one, a mistake that the pastor did. But my mother started going there, and this man right here, and I want you all to understand how it came about where I almost murdered him, is because this is the same pastor when I was coming up that my mother allowed to whoop me, to chastise me. I looked at this man as a father figure still, coming up as a child, because my biological, he wasn't in my life.
Mhm.
So this pastor was the only, back in Detroit, and at that time the church was on a street called Hall and Divine, right on the east side of Detroit, near Gratiot, off of Harper, French. Matter of fact, it was close off of French Road, Divine and French Road. Right across the street from a Cadillac Motor car company plant was across the street.
Mhm.
And it was a white church on the corner. And, you know, that was the pastor, that was our church. It was a nice looking church. And the pastor was very charismatic. But he whooped me, chastised me. But on the flip side, he was a womanizer. And I'm telling you what I know. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. Okay, to fast forward, I paid tithes, offering, special offering. Jeff, I used to work at this place called Nemo's
Mhm.
down in the Tower 300 in the Renaissance Center.
Mhm.
I was only making like $48. I'm talking about bringing home $48 a week.
Wow.
And if I brought home $60 a week, that was you know, that was the max.
Were you doing 40 hours?
I was a bus boy, and then I got promoted to a dishwasher.
Oh, okay.
You see, but I was dedicated to my church congregation, man.
Yeah.
So out of that $48, I was paying tithes, because I was taught to pay tithing. But we're going to talk on the real truth of tithing on another subject. But is tithing true, and is it for the church today? And I'm going to also talk about what happened in 1700 and how the tithing got reinstituted back into the church. You see, when the separation of church and state happened, I'm going to go into all of that. I wrote it in my books, Kept Secret. I broke it down. Okay? But I was faithful to this church. If it was a special offering and they needed money, I would donate, pledge $25, $100. I was dedicated to this church. If the church needed to be painted, cleaned or whatever, I was there to do that. So that was my dedication for years. to this church, all the way up into my teenage years, into my early 20s. And I used to love going to church, man, even though I saw that my pastor and knew that my pastor was a womanizer. I knew he was dating different women. And one thing he used to always say, Jeff, he used to say, if I have to do something for another man's wife or another man's woman, I want the benefits too. He used to say that all the time, and I used to hear him say it when I was a child. And I didn't understand what he was saying when I was a child, but when I became an older teenager, like 17, 18, 19 years old, I understood what he meant. But yet, I was brainwashed. One thing that you have to realize, Jeff, is when a person is brainwashed, while they're in their brainwashing, they don't see it. A person never realized that they were brainwashed until they come out of that brainwashing. So during that time, I was brainwashed. And I didn't realize I was brainwashed. But I'm going to tell you what happened that caused me to come out of my brainwashing. You see what I'm saying? So I was cold-heartedly 100% dedicated to this church. I was there. I played the drums. I was in the choir. I was on the usher board. I painted. We was at church all day Sunday. We was at church on Wednesdays for Bible class. There was a revival during the week. We were there. We was there for Tuesday Tyrian service. You named it. We was there. When I became older, as I said before, when I started working, making $40, $50 a week, and my rent was $175 a month, I used to live on Martindale, on the west side of Detroit, a street called Martindale. I remember the drug boys used to be out back in the early 80s. You see what I'm saying? They had all the different gangs going, but I had no problems with none of them. I didn't have a problem with any of them. Nobody stepped to me. Nobody tried to rob me. I was wearing my brim hats then. I was dressed up nice, walking. Had my Raggedy Vega, 1971 Impala, 1973 Vega. Had no problem out of the dope boys. You see what I'm saying? During that time, they had the Young Boys Incorporated. You know, they had the gangs, Best Friends. They had all of that stuff going on. Different, you know, drug gangs. I had a problem out of none of them. You see, and that was God protecting me. You see, I lived on Martindale. Fast forward, man, I used to date this young lady at that time in my life. She started going to our church when I was 13. Okay? And I was shy. I'm still shy today. People don't believe that. But I still got a little shyness to me today. But I was shy. She started going to the church, man. That was back in 1978. Fast forward, I wrote and broke it down in my book more. Me and her started dating. Matter of fact, my older brother, and this fella named Curtis, when they started, her mother, her older brother, his wife, and a fella named Thurno, who was very gifted in organ player with his two sons, was very gifted in playing the guitar, the bass, and the lead. And during that time, it was like people was coming out the woodwork, man, because the church was growing. Our church congregation was growing like crazy. And the pastor was a gifted pastor. He can hoop and holler with the best of them. You see, he was gifted. Okay, so to fast forward, I'm not going to mention her name at all, but my brother did something, my older brother, and I ended up going down in the basement on the payphone, because at that time nobody had cell phones. They had pay phones, and I went and I called I asked I think I asked the pastor for their number, and I called them. And my future high school sweetheart's mother, we wasn't dating at the time, but her mother answered the phone. I ended up really apologizing for my brother for what he did. I can't even remember what it was, but I apologized for my brother, for my brother, on the behalf of my brother. He didn't even know I was doing it, to her mother. And I think her mother appreciated that. And I was young. I had to be about 16 years old at the time. And I think her mother appreciated it. And the time came, I think my high school sweetheart, she started liking me. Because I was shy, I never would have made a move on her. But anyway, after services, she used to start asking me to walk her to the car. So after Bible study, nice Sunday night service or whatever, I would walk her to the car. And one day she kissed me when I walked her to the car. She kissed me real quick and got in the car. That was my first time anything. I was a virgin, ain't never been with a young lady or nothing, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I remember, I think I fell in love, not just playing, but I remember being happy or whatever, she kissed me, but to fast forward, we ended up dating and started dating, and during that time, we was like this. Me and my high school sweetheart, we was like this, and I grew as we got older, like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I was in deep love with her. We was together for some years. And I got to remember during that time, Jeff, when I was, I would go, they lived on a street called Tracy off of Curtis over there near, right around the corner from Schaefer at that time. And I would go over there and visit her, and she would tell me that she was going out of town. And when she first would tell me, I would think she was going out of town with her family. So I was cool with that. I was going to miss her, you know, I love you, and all that type of stuff, enjoy your trip, and all that type of stuff. But then she would tell me that it was nobody going out of town but her and the pastor. And at this time, I was 2 years older than my high school sweetheart. So if I was 17 or 18, she was 15 or 16. And I remember being disturbed about that, Jeff. And I would ask her, you know, why are you going out with the pastor? You know, I would ask, I said, why is it that his wife, you know, can't go with him? And I wanted to go to her mother and, you know, ask, why are you letting so-and-so, which my high school sweetheart, go out of town with our pastor? What's wrong with his wife? I just always thought there was something wrong with that situation. But she used to go, and man, that happened a few times. So one day, I'm going to mention another situation. One day we went to a visit in church, and I was sitting in the pew, and my high school sweetheart at that time in her life, to me, she was more of a homebody, and then we was always together all the time. We was always together. Okay, a high percentage of the time, me and her was together. All my friends and people I associated with, they knew about her. You know, so we was in church at a church service, and I turned around and I looked, and she had some scratches on her cleavage. So I was like, I said, so-and-so, but I called her name. I said, why you got the scratches on your cleavage? What happened? She told me she got in a fight at the store. And I didn't believe that, because she wasn't that type of individual, you know what I'm saying? So she had scratches on cleavage. I asked her a few times, and I saw that she wasn't going to tell me. So I left it alone, you see? But I never believed that she got in a fight. Okay, so fast forward. When I graduated out of high school from Mackenzie High School in 1980. She graduated, she was going to Cooley High School off of Hubbard, and I think that's Finkel. Finkel, she went to Cooley High School. I went to Mackenzie High School. I graduated 2 years before. I graduated in 1980. She graduated in 1982. Okay? And when she graduated, after she graduated, she was 19 years old. I was like 20 going on 21, or I was 21. And she started pressing me and saying that she wanted to move out of her mother's house, and that she didn't want to go to our church anymore. And I was in love with her. I'm just that type of individual. If I love somebody, I'm for them. I just want them to be happy. That with the woman, I just want her to be happy. You know what I'm saying? So when she was, even though I was confused, because to me, her and her mother had a good relationship. And so I was confused why she wanted to, you know, move out of her mother's house, and why did she want to stop going to the church that I've been going to since I was like 5, 6 years old. But I was willing to do that because I had a great love for her. And at that time, we was together for, I'm going to say, about 6 years. So she said, it was her idea, she said, let's go to Toledo and get married. I was on my own since I was 19. My mother kicked me out of the house when I was 19 years old. So I ended up living with my grandmother, who was a witch. And I go into that another time. I think I got a video up and told a story about that on YouTube. Y'all check that out. And anyway, but I had my own apartment when I was living on Martindale, a 1-bedroom apartment. So I was living on my own. So I wanted to make her happy, and she said, well, let's go to Toledo, because Toledo was only like an hour and a half outside of Detroit. So she said, let's go to Toledo and get married, and that way we won't have to take a blood test either. So we did. She had a 1979 Mustang, a burgundy colored Mustang, and that she was driving, and we ended up driving up to Toledo, and me and her got married. But we eloped. But I did it because of my love for her. That's why I did it. She wanted to get away from the church. So to fast forward, we ended up getting the place together. We were married. And it was this one time during the summer, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment over there on Teller, across the street from Ewald Circle on the west side of Detroit, a block off of Davidson Avenue. And we was intimate one day. It could have been about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we was intimate. We was together for like 7 years at that time, somewhere around there. And we was intimate, and I was inside of her, and she just started crying. I was on top of her, and she just started crying. And I remember I looked at her and I said, I remember I looked up, I was in the push-up position. I looked at her and I was like, I said, what's wrong? I said, you all right? And I called her name. I said, son, you all right? What's wrong? I said, and I asked, I said, am I hurting you? And she was crying, and she started crying, and she was like, no. And I remember I got up and we both sat on the side of the bed, and I was hugging her and I was holding her. And I was, what's wrong? And that's when she started telling me everything. And things that I didn't know. Even though I knew our pastor was a child molester. I mean, a womanizer. Not a child molester, but a womanizer. And she told me that the cleavage, the scratches she had on her cleavage, see, my pastor was dating my high school sweetheart's mother also. And when her mother used to leave to go to work, the pastor would come to the house. To her house. And she said that the pastor was trying to get her, because she's a very attractive young lady, pretty eyes. She was a very attractive young lady, my high school sweetheart, who I ended up marrying, very attractive young lady. And she said the pastor was trying to impose himself on her to have sex with her, and she was telling him no. And he said he grabbed her bra, and in the midst of grabbing her bra, he scratched her, and that's where the scratches from the cleavage came from. So she told me that, and I also know for sure that he had a cousin who went to the church, who was a minister at the church, and he got his own cousin's wife pregnant because the baby came out looking exactly like him, same shaped head, forehead, everything. And the pastor's wife, I know she knew things because she was popping aspirins like they was M&Ms. She was popping aspirins like crazy. So when my high school sweetheart told me that, and I had a burning desire in me, that's when the desire came to want to get him. I was young at the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like 22 years old at that time, and so I was immature in ways. I was still growing. I wasn't mature in the fact, because I'm saying that is because if I was in that same situation with her now as being a seasoned man and all of that, I would have handled the whole situation differently, and I wouldn't have turned on her because at that time I was only 21, 22 years old, and all that information that was coming and all that anger. My anger turned towards her because I was like, we've been together all these years. I loved you like crazy on the highest level. And I was like, why you didn't, and I asked, I said, why you didn't come and tell me? Because it's my job to protect you. It was my job to protect you. If anybody do anything against you, I don't care who it is, it's my job to protect you. And I'm the type of individual, I'm going to protect you before your mother and your own father come, or your own brother come. And that's how I was with her. So I was, and so then that's when it came, and I was like, man, have they been sexually active? Had the pastor been having sex with my high school sweetheart all these years? And I've been looking like the fool. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happened, Jeff, man. And that's when it got to the point where, and I'm thinking about all my dedication that I did to the church. I broke it down deeper in my books. I'm about to speed it up. But all the years of dedication and looking to him as a father figure and paying all this countless tithes and offerings on my little income, looking at this man as a father figure, and then he gonna do that to me and sleep with my high school sweetheart who I love, and then I turn anger at her because I'm like, why you didn't tell me? So I could have handled that. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I'm gonna tell you another thing that the pastor did towards me. When I was working at Nemo's, I saved up $200 at that time, which was a lot of money to me. I was in the bathroom, and I was just counting my money on the sink. I was laying it out. It was doing morning service. We had a church. The church was at that time on Jefferson and Lakeview, I remember, on the east side of Detroit. And I was in the bathroom. It was a big church. That church had a gym, a balcony, a huge cafeteria, a commercial kitchen. It had apartments attached. It was a big church. And I was in that bathroom off of the cafeteria, and I was counting all my money, and I said, wow, I saved up $200. It was a lot of money to me. But before I could pick the money up and put it in my pocket, the pastor walked in the bathroom, and he saw my money laid out on the sink. So he went to the urinal, started using it, and while he was doing that, I put all the money up, cut it up, put it in my pocket. I was happy because I saved it, put it in my pocket, and I was about to walk out the door. But before I walked out the door, the pastor asked me, he said, Tommy, he said, how much money you got there? And I said $200. I said it all happy. At that time, I had to be about 19 years old. 18, 19, somewhere around there. And he said, Tom, he said, can I borrow that $200 from you? He said, because I got to go outside and preach, and I need some new tires for my car. And this man was getting new Cadillacs every 2 years. I'm driving a 19 beat up, it wasn't beat up, but it was a 1971 Impala, or it was either my 1973 Vega, it was one of those I had. But I was so brainwashed into the church that I took the reach in my pocket, got my $200, and I handed it all to him. Happily. Didn't give it a second thought. Didn't give it a second thought, man. And he told me he was going to pay me that money back. That man haven't paid me my money back until this day. You know what I'm saying? And every time I used to think about that, I used to get a little angry at that. So now just fast forward, you know, time went on, those years went on, and my high school sweetheart telling me what she told me, Jeff. Man, I had anger. So it got to the point where I wanted to kill him. Because the biggest betrayal is what my pastor did to me. So I wanted to kill him, and I used to have dreams, because he lived over there on the east side of Detroit near Gratiot and Outer Drive. The street was called, he lived on a street called Kilbourne off of Dickerson on the east side of Detroit. And he also owned the cleaners that was on the street called Dickerson. So, Jeff, man, I had a strong desire to kill him. And it got to the point where I said, I'm going to just pull up and I'm going to lay wait. First, I was trying to figure out how I can kill him without anybody knowing. So I'd see if I could get away with it. But then it got to the point where I couldn't even sleep, and I became obsessed with killing this man because of his great betrayal towards me and my dedication to a devil, okay, throughout the years, and being brainwashed and not coming to my senses and recognizing the problems that I was seeing, you see. And then it just got to the point, Jeff, where, man, I say, forget it. I don't care who know I killed him. I said, this is what I said I was going to do. I said, I'm going to drive, I'm going to park my car down the street, and when he come out of his car, come out and get in this Cadillac, I'm going to walk up to him and I'm going to shoot him 2 times in the head. And that was my plan. So I got a gun, the time came, this was like a 3-month meditation, or a 2-month meditation. I was like, I can't deal with this no more, I got to kill this man. And I'm going to tell you, too, how I knew my high school sweetheart was telling the truth, because we eloped, and I always regretted, you know, that we did elope, because I loved her mother. I would have never did anything against her, her mother, or her family, ever. You see what I'm saying? Never. But her mother wanted to throw us a wedding reception, which was Ben at his church, right? I didn't want to go to that church, and she didn't either. But her mother wanted to have a reception there, so we had the reception there. My high school sweetheart, I think she did it out of show because we were sitting at the table and the pastor was sitting on the other side and down to my left at the table. Because it was like 2 or 3 tables together. The cafeteria, the eating area, whatever it's called, was all decorated. And she came and she sat on my lap and put her arms around me and kissed me. And while she was doing that, I was looking at the pastor. And when I was looking at the pastor, he didn't know I was looking at him. And if you could have saw he was looking dead smack at her, sitting on my lap. He had a mean, dead demon face like crazy, like jealous, that my own wife was sitting on my lap. And when I looked at that and I saw him and I was staring at him, I knew it was true. I said, I'm going to kill this man. I'm going to take him off the earth. A man that's evil and wicked like that don't deserve to live. That's what I came to, Jeff. You see? And it got to the point where I say, forget it. My car was broke down. I got a gun. Detroit got his own little flavor to it. We was in high school wearing brim hats, dress pants, dress shoes, and carrying briefcases to school. That's how we was in high school. That's how Detroit was. Fellas walked around with perm. You can always tell who lived on the east side of Detroit, basically, and who lived on the west side of Detroit. You know, because they still had their own little flavor. You know, but anyway, man, my car was broke. I'm about to end it. I'm going to just tell it quick. My car broke down, man. I got a gun. I put the gun in the briefcase. I caught I had to catch like an Oakman bus or something to Grand River. I caught the Grand River bus downtown Detroit. I hopped on the Gratiot bus line. I caught the Gratiot. No, I didn't. Yeah, I caught the Gratiot down to Harper. Then I got on that bus and I caught that Harper bus down to Dickerson. I got off the bus at Dickerson, whipped the briefcase and my gun, because the pastor owned the cleaners. And I walked down Dickerson, because it was an elementary school that was across the street. But it wasn't no school in when I did that. And I walked down to his cleaners and I had the briefcase in my hand, and I had kept my hand on the gun with my hand in the briefcase, just standing there, laying wait in the alley. And I told myself, when that man pull up, which was my ex-pastor, when he pull up, I'm gonna shoot him in the head. And I meant that. I couldn't wait. I became so excited to kill this man. I couldn't sleep. When I say I couldn't sleep, I literally couldn't sleep because I wanted to kill this man. I stayed out there for probably, I don't know, it was about a half hour, 45 minutes, because this was a lot of years ago. We're talking about like 1984. He pulled up, ended up pulling up in front of his cleaners, and before he got out, I came out the alley real quick and I walked up on him and had the gun out, had the gun to him. And when I had the gun to him, I didn't want to really pull the trigger because I really wanted to see his face. And it's just like I wanted to let him know, because I was 22 years old, I wanted to let him know that I knew everything. So I held the gun, he looked up at me, I saw the fear in his face, he was scared, he was shocked. And he was, and I told him basically, I said, I'm here to kill you. I said, you ain't about nothing. I say, I know about everything. That's what I told him. I said, you ain't about nothing. And when I was about to pull the trigger to kill him, it's like God took all that anger from me like that. And I didn't have a desire to pull the trigger. And I remember in my mind, I became confused because I didn't know what happened. All of this build up and this excitement and this anticipation to kill this man. And then when I get to pull the trigger, it all left. So when I saw I didn't have that desire to kill him, I just told him, I said, you know what? I said, you ain't even worth it. That's what I said, you ain't even worth it. And when I said that to him, I think I saw a little relief in his face, because then he knew I wasn't going to kill him, right? And then he said to me, he said, I got guns at home. And when he said that, all that anger built back up on me, and I was about to pull the trigger, because I said, well, them guns can't help you right now. And that's what I was about. And I was about to pull the trigger again to get him. and God took all that desire away. I didn't even have a desire to kill him no more, man. I was confused and didn't understand. And that's when I said, you know what? I said, you ain't even worth it. I said, you ain't nothing but trash. Basically like that, and said some things like that to him. And I turned around, put my briefcase back, and he had to be a punk because he never came back for me. I was always told if you pull a gun out on somebody, you better use it. Don't pull a gun out on nobody if you ain't going to use it. Because that person can come back on you. You see what I'm saying? But God was with him. And when I looked on it as years passed, God wasn't just with him, but he was with me because I would still be locked up today on that murder charge. So I was 22 years old when that happened. So I'm 55, almost 56 now. So see how many years I would have had in the prison system right now. You know what I'm saying? So God, Jeff, man, spared his life. I got back, put my briefcase, my gun in the briefcase, caught the bus, reversed Connors to Gratiot back downtown, and the Grand River back. And I didn't understand. But I know that he went back and told everybody what happened, but I know the type of individual he was. He made himself look big. But I guarantee you, when I had that gun on him, he wasn't big and tough and all that boisterous at that time. It had a lot of anger in me, and rightfully so. So Jeff, man, that was, I can go on about the church that I had, man. And between that, and I still believe God was real. I got out of church. Wasn't going to church no more. I ended up meeting, I already knew her since she was 12 years old, but I ended up being involved with my son's mother. And I call myself trying to get back into church because that's really all I knew was church. And anyway, to make it fast story, my son's mother, Devin's mother, me and her started talking, because me doing all of that situation with my high school sweetheart, we ended up breaking up. It didn't last. It was, I couldn't deal with the situation, you know, and I apologize. I remember I probably wrote 20 letters and went to their house and left it on her windshield of how I was sorry, because my emotions was a roller coaster with my high school sweetheart after that. I didn't know how to handle all of that. You know, I didn't. But, you know, I wished her the best in life, you know, and wrote in the letter, I wish you the best, all of that. One thing I know, I never would have hurt her, wouldn't have never hurt her family or her mother. But I know the pastor probably went back and told them to watch out, I'm dangerous and all that type of stuff, man. But now I wasn't dangerous to them, I was dangerous to him, you know. But Jeff, man, I went on, I remember to fast forward, even with the church, when I called myself doing things right, I ended up getting Devin's mother pregnant before we got married. She wasn't even showing, Jeff. And I said, when she told me she was pregnant.
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closing in 30 minutes at 5 p.m. If you need a library card or assistance locating library materials, please go to the service desk. Thank you.
So when I found out she was pregnant, Jeff, I said we better get married. So to fast forward, to make it quick, because I've been taking a lot of time, I apologize for that. Make it quick, we planned the wedding, and I wrote this more detailed in my books too. We planned the wedding, and everything was set. Everybody had their tux and gowns, and the place of the reception, the wedding was set to take place. And sure enough, 3 days before the wedding was going to be that Saturday. That Wednesday, we get a call for the church saying we can't have a wedding there because she was pregnant before we got married. But I told the pastor that she was pregnant. I didn't have to, because she was nowhere near showing. Her stomach was flat like what y'all see me now. You know, but me just being that type of individual, you know, honest, truthful, and I definitely wouldn't do anything to try to deceive the church, you know, and being honest. But it backfired on me, man. And you know, after that right there, man, and we had to scramble to get another church. A pastor that didn't even know me allowed us to have the church there. And a lot of people didn't even couldn't make it. You know, there's people that couldn't make it because we had to change. We only had those 2 days, Thursday and Friday, to get that. And back that time, it wasn't no internet and all that stuff, you know, and no cell phones, you know, whatever. But, man, after that, man, I was like, I'm done with the church. people fake, they phony, and all of that. And I ain't wasn't in church for like 15, 18 years after that, Jeff. So what you think about what I just said, man?
It goes right along with, the dream. The dream we were talking about, in the beginning. There's a lot of hurt, But at the same time, I just want to say that to the people that's listening, we're talking about church hurt. But to the people that's listening, I just want to say, for every bad pastor or evangelist that you ran into in your experience with church, just know that there's 3 more good ones out there. We're not saying that everybody in the church is bad. These are just bad experiences. And so don't look at the whole church and say, well, I'm not going to go to church because, all these hypocrites. But why don't you come on and be one of the hypocrites with us? Why don't you come on in? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people say, well, the church is not perfect. Well, if it was perfect, when you get there, it won't be perfect. Because there's no perfect people. We striving for perfection. So don't turn your heart against the church, but just hear the talk of what we experienced as, the pains that we experienced, and realize that you're going to experience some pains, but like I said again in the beginning, the safest place in the whole world is to be in the will of God. Not to be in the church, but be in the will of God. To be where God wants you to be.
Right.
So, to walk out your destiny.
Right.
Allow God to order your steps. And if you allow God to order your steps, He'll even show you where you should go and where you shouldn't go. So let the Lord order your steps.
I hear you, Jeff, and I do want to make that clear too, man. The church is true, but this is what I do say to people, and this is what I say to you. If you're in a church and that pastor, because the head is the leader, that pastor and that bishop is not living according to Scripture, yeah, we're not perfect and we make some mistakes, but in my mind, to be honest with you, some things are unexcusable. If I'm sleeping with your wife, I'm saying your friend, but I'm sleeping with your wife, or I'm sleeping with the men in the church, or I'm pimping you and tricking you out of money. You see what I'm saying? Then I say if you with a church, in a church congregation, that's how I put it. If you're in a church congregation and that pastor is not living right and not holy, because he is supposed to be an example. Okay, we're going to end this soon. Jeff just let me know. Okay, but what I'm going to say real quick, that if you're in a congregation and that pastor is not real and concerned about your soul and he's playing all types of games, then leave that congregation. Leave it. And find a congregation that's true and concerned about your soul, making it into the presence of the Most High after your death. And that's what I say to you. That's what I say to you. So examine where you're at. Forget that brainwashing, your dedication, and if my family been going here for this many years, my mother went here, my grandmother went here, my grandfather went here, my father went here, or whoever. Forget all of that foolishness. If the pastor isn't right, Jeff, leave. Don't be brainwashed. Check yourself and see if you're brainwashed. Check yourself and see if you're brainwashed. You see, everybody that's living for the Most High God is an anointed or a blessed person or a child of the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So you are important. Don't downrate yourself. And Jeff, we're going to end this video, man, but I want you to get a $50 question and ask somebody. Ask the question so somebody can win this $50.
The question is, who was the 3 fellows in the fiery furnace? Don't give me their English name, but give me their Hebrew name.
Okay.
The 3 men that was in the fiery furnace, give us their Hebrew name. Their Hebrew name.
Okay. So Jeff said if you give the Hebrew name of the 3 young men that was cast into the fiery furnace, you will win $50.
Mhm.
Do that by emailing us at the Speakers of Organization at yahoo.com
Mhm.
and TommyCharlesGmail.com. We look forward to giving this money away. We thank you, and we hope you learned something from the things that we spoke. I apologize, Jeff, if I took too much time,
It's all good.
because I wanted to get my story out, and I want to encourage people to find a church home or a church congregation home that that's concerned about your soul, where your spirit is going to be uplifted, and where you're growing to the Most High God and learning of Him through His Son. If you're in a place, I don't care how big it is, and if it's not right, then find another one. You're better than that. Examine yourself to see if you're brainwashed, but a lot of people that are brainwashed
right.
don't know that they're brainwashed until something
Right.
happened. And I didn't realize I was brainwashed until that situation happened. That situation happened to me, and when I look back on it, I was like, oh my goodness, I was really brainwashed, you know? Okay, so we're going to end this video, and I appreciate your time. Please donate to us, subscribe to us, tell people about us, because we're going to start talking about teachings in the scriptures. We're going to start talking about all types of subjects that we have planned for you. And we ask that you please donate. Send $1, $2 a month, $5 a month. Anything can help us, that we can give people money. And we want to be to the place where we can give the first 200 people, pay them $500. We're also in a building fund. Please go to our website at thespeakersorganization.com, and please read our website, see what we're doing, and the money that you can make for being a part of us, because we are all about you. And I thank you, Jeff. You can